In the sweater.
It's not my good side, yo.
Do you want to switch?
I'm kidding. Whatever. I don't care.
Jesse Garcia.
What's up?
Old school on Check It Out.
I know.
Dude, I told you when you...
Check it out.
Yeah, check it out. You know where that
Check
comes
it
from?
Tell me.
Scarface.
Yeah.
Remember the... God, I forgot the character that's played by...
Oh,
God,
you should know this. This
I
is
know,
like
I'm
the,
bad.
This
God,
is the root
bless.
of your... And now you blew
man,
it, bro.
I know. But he will go check it out.
Episode 1, what, season 2?
This is season 2. Okay, yes,
Yeah,
you're episode 1,
see?
season 2. But let's get to the season. I was telling you as
so
we
you
were
don't
walking.
want me to be ragging on you for the first
Rag
10
on me,
minutes?
rag on
Yeah,
me.
go ahead.
Well, go.
Go.
About the Scarface?
Nah, it's all right.
I
Go,
actually
man.
I grew up ragging on Scarface because now I love it. But like my parents didn't like it because the old school Cubans were like, oh, this is what you people think of us? Plus, Al Pacino, his action in that movie is horrific.
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
stays with it the rest of his career.
I know. Yeah. I know.
But you look back
but
on it.
he's still the man.
Yeah. Looking back on it now, though, actually, my generation actually did like it a lot because we were like hip hop and gangsters and all that stuff. But
You're a real G, bro.
You're a real G.
You're a real
You're a
G.
Garcia. I'm a
Yeah,
Guida.
yeah.
We're G's.
Jeez.
Dude, I was telling you on the way in here, man. I really think this is a big role for you. You're playing a lot of cops now. I've noticed. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
But even those cops that do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Before it was killing vampires.
Yeah.
Now you're taking
Killing and kind of navigating and keeping the peace. Peacekeeper.
So, first of all, tell us a little bit about what we can talk about season 2. I know there's with Narcos, there's always secrecy and mystery. Okay, so there's rules about what you can and can't talk about. But can you tell us a little bit about what happens in season 2 and who your character is?
I play Sal Orozco, and I'm not really based on any real person. I'm kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of real people, a bunch of real DEA agents. None of our team is. There's a team of 7 of us. There's Matt Bidell, Scoot McNary, who's number 2 on our show. We got Alex Knight, who's also DEA. Then we got Miguel Rodarte, who's a big Mexican star. He's a Mexican cop. Hero Medina, who's new on the scene. And Alberto Zeni, who's kind of also new in the scene.
Yeah, we had him here the other day. He's great.
Yeah, he's cool, man. Yeah. So we kind of we formed this kind of team of badass dudes that kind of do what you got to do to get the information we're looking for. We're trying to find out who killed Kiki and get justice, and then we kind of start unraveling this ball of yarn that has all kinds of loose ends, and we get caught up in a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot of action. There's a lot of drama. It's fun.
Yeah, there is a lot of drama in Narcos. I want to talk a little bit about the impact of the show in general, but first I want to talk to you about like how'd you feel? This is a huge franchise, and especially if you're like a dude into like gritty, edgy kind of content that's also quality, right? It's not just over the top for the sake of being over the top, but it's also based in some sort of truth, right? How excited were you? Did you have to audition for it, or were they already approaching you?
Yeah, man, I've auditioned for this show probably 6 or 7 times.
Wow.
Yeah, throughout from the very beginning to finally this past season. I actually auditioned for Kiki. I had a
Really?
Yeah, I was always going to be Michael, so I never had a chance.
Yeah.
But they always do kind of that. They always do just in case auditions. You know what I mean? Just in case something happens and Mike couldn't do it or whatever. They always have choices. Again, not that I had a chance, but yeah, I auditioned for this part. I was really stoked on it. I felt like I was really right for the part. I really kind of felt like the character description, Mexican American DEA agent goes down with to find justice for Kiki, and I thought I blew it. I thought I bombed my audition.
Why?
I just kept I had a really great kind of first run through, and then little by little, I felt like I was blowing it, and eventually I got a good take, and I left, and I was like, I haven't told anybody this yet, on air anyway, that I left and I called a couple friends. I'm like, yo, dude, I think I blew it. I felt like this is written for me. I felt like I blew it, and I kind of was down on myself for about a day or two. And then I forgot about it. And then a month later, my representatives gave me a call. And they go, dude, you got the offer for Narcos. I'm like, what part? And they go, the part you auditioned for. I'm like, I've auditioned for so many. And like at this point, I'm like, there's no way I got this other part that I got. They go, no, the DEA agent. I'm like, all right, Cool.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's like I'm a big fan of the show, and I'm a big fan. I'm friends with a lot of the actors on it
Right.
too, and I'm a big fan of all those actors.
Dude, that, perseverance, because a lot of times people, they think, well, if you don't get it in the first couple of tries, then you're not meant to get it at all. Then it becomes like a pipe dream,
Yeah.
But to be able to get something after you've tried so many times is actually pretty inspiring to people, because people don't hear those stories.
And oftentimes you get, and for acting in particular, you kind of mistake that I've made before, and I know other people have made, is that you cast yourself out
Right.
of a role. You know what I mean? So it was my job to go in there and do the best I could with the choices that I made, blah blah blah. I have no control over anything. And when I talked to Jessie Moore, the producer, on set, I told her story, and she goes, "No, we thought you were great. We loved you.
Wow.
It was a really great audition. You were perfect for it." I'm like, well, there you go, man. You don't really know anything.
Well, you said you had a good take, so you're probably living in the multiple takes that
Yeah, who
fell
knows?
short, but that one take that you nailed, it was enough for
Whatever,
them.
yeah.
Eventually, they just need one take.
Yeah, you just need one take. So who knows which take they used. But I don't know. I'm sitting here now, so
Right.
a year later.
But you're the kind of guy that you're very in the moment, and if you feel that you weren't in the moment in the performance, I think that's where you kind of beat yourself
Well,
up.
too, and my Spanish still isn't perfect, but it's much better than what it was when I
Right.
went down to Mexico last year. So I was a little self-conscious about my Spanish, and I had studied so hard the couple days before, and the day that I went in, and I felt good about it, and then little by little, I felt like my audition was deteriorating. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I was starting to get in my head, and
Have you always felt kind of like in between as an American born, right,
Yeah.
of Mexican descent, and someone who speaks English without any accent? I have a Miami accent. I was born in the
Yeah,
United
yeah.
States, but people think, oh, what part of Latin America?
my
you from?
accent's
Yeah.
changed over the years. It's
I
gone,
think you've
yeah.
acquired maybe a little bit, right? No?
Well, I've always kind of felt like it was neutral, but I told the story the other day. When I went back to Wyoming, oh gosh, like maybe 4 or 5 years after I had left, I might have been 22, 23, something like that.
Right.
One of my buddies goes, what are you up to now? I go, and he goes, you an actor? I'm like, why do you ask? And I was like, maybe you saw a commercial or something, because I had a few commercials come out. I hadn't really done anything. And he goes, you lost your accent. And I'm from Wyoming, and
Right.
there are accents all over the country, but mine, the accent up there is kind of particular. It's almost like a little bit of country and kind of mixed with a little bit of East LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's a funny accent. So when I went back, I had lost all of it. I had acquired kind of a neutral accent. And now people from, like in Texas, and I split my time between here and Austin, they go, no, you sound like you're from California.
Wow, you do kind of. I mean, I don't hear anything that would say Wyoming, but I don't know that. I think you're the only person from Wyoming that I know, and the only
Yeah.
other person from Wyoming that I know of is the former Vice President Dick Cheney, Darth Vader, aka.
Yeah.
Now, as an actor, did you find yourself? You've definitely established yourself for a while as a working actor. You know, you've done a lot of stuff from Dusk Till Dawn. There's the movies Walk on Quinceañera and a bunch of stuff in between. A lot of guest starring roles on TV. But did you ever feel like a loss between the all these increasing roles for Latinos that have to be Latin, meaning from Latin America, who speak Spanish, and then they want to, because you're a Latino, you kind of go to that line, but then they realize, oh, wait a minute, hold on, but he's American, he speaks with a neutral English accent, his Spanish isn't. And then you're thinking, well, then just cast me as that. Whatever a co-star was the white guy, make him me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, was that a battle that you've always had to fight? And
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, it's always been kind of a struggle to. I'm kind of caught in a weird category. I'm
Right.
caught between a character actor and kind of quasi lead actor. You know what I mean? I'm not super lean like all the leading guys, and I'm I'm a little bit of a rounder face. I'm kind of more muscular, but I'm also everything I do is kind of charactery.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to place me. So for me, when I got Quinceañera, it was kind of like a great breakthrough thing. But from then on out, I did a bunch of character stuff.
Right.
Yeah. From Dusk Till Dawn, it's not quite a leading guy.
Right.
But he's not the full character actor, so I'm caught in between. I'm kind of treading the line on both sides. I haven't really gotten pigeonholed really for the stereotypes or gangsters and stuff like that, because I've kind of been careful. The one mistake that I did, I feel like, there's a choice that I made. and I'm not mad at it, but I feel like if I could go back, and I don't really have very many regrets, but if I can go back to my early self and my early career post quinceañera, like right after quinceañera, I had this was pre-writer strike, pre-SAG strike, all the stuff before AFTRA and SAG merged, right? Before the recession, all this stuff, everything that kind of collapsed the whole film industry. And it was a good goal, and I'm not mad at myself because that's how it was at the time, is that I had a very clear vision that I didn't want to audition for gangster roles, some stereotype roles like gardeners and stuff like that, etc. But what I didn't know, because I was still pretty new in the game, is that I could have used some of those roles as stepping stones. You know what I mean? Like in the pilot season, back when pilot season was a real pilot season, that you book a pilot, even if it's not quite your dream role, you make a little bit of money, and if that pilot doesn't go, now you're in the system. You know what I mean? So I didn't get myself in the system early on by doing some of these roles that may not have been perfect roles for me, even though I was curating my career to do something bigger of what I wanted. And there's a couple things that didn't happen that could have gotten me there. But I would have told myself to you be more business-like.
Right.
You know, and I've used my savvy business self to use these as stepping stones, because you make a bunch of money.
Right.
You get in with the networks. You do a bunch of good work. You learn some stuff, and then you keep moving.
Right.
You know
You
what
could
I
have
mean?
put your foot down about those things a little farther into your career instead of maybe in the beginning when you were trying to get into the system, as you say.
Right. Yeah, I would have done it very, very early, and I'm doing it now because I realize now that I'm not starting over by any means. Like, I'm still doing good work and I'm getting some cool stuff.
Right.
But I don't, at the same time, there's a struggle right after From Dusk Till Dawn got canceled in October 2016. I didn't work for really 2.5 years. I did a couple small guest stars. I think I did The Last Ship. I think I did 2 small guest stars on that. And that was about it. So for 2.5 years, I lived off my savings
Wow.
from what I was using on From
The
Dusk Till Dawn.
struggle.
And even right before that, nobody knows this either, but I was couch surfing for like a year and a half,
Wow.
depending on friends, house sitting.
Evaluating your life, like, wait a minute, hold on, I was up here and now
yeah. And then right before the writer's strike happened, all that stuff, I did a bunch of movies. I did this $15 million movie with Wilmer Valderrama,
Right.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Amber Vallette, like all kinds of people. Lawrence Fishburne was in it.
What
Tate Diggs
movie
in
was
it.
that?
It's called Days of Wrath. It never
Right.
came out.
Oh, okay.
And the reason, and if it would have come out, I probably, it would have done really great things for me. It would have done really great things for Wilmer.
Why didn't it come out?
It just, who knows, politics within.
They shot it and they just shelved it.
They shot it. and
That's
shelved it.
insane.
Yeah, it was a privately funded movie. Who knows what the politics were.
Yeah, when it's privately funded,
And
there was an argument.
It was
between
good.
producers.
It was a good movie.
Really?
It was a good, fun, kind of action.
Is there
gangster
any way
flick.
that we can like find a copy, leak it out, just hush hush, I'll take the blame?
I don't know. I'm backing out of this conversation now. I'm backing
It didn't
out
come
of this.
from him.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. No. Let me ask you this. So you're talking about how you curate your roles. Well, these days, I mean, including From Dusk Till Dawn a few years ago, and now with Narcos, even if you're playing an edgy, gritty character who may do bad things, you're still playing cops and authority figures and deputies and
Sure.
agents. So you are kind of getting what you originally asked for, just a whole lot of space in between where you had to like evaluate your approach.
Right.
Like, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like you look like someone that I could believe to be an agent, a cop, that might just
Sure.
do anything at any moment, but.
I mean, I got an edgy feel. Like,
Yeah.
I just.
But you also have a feel of someone who'll trying to do the right thing.
Sure.
To cast as an agent. So when you auditioned for Narcos, did you audition for like the bad guys as well, or was it always?
Oh, in the past?
Yeah.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did.
But this one felt at home, like you said, Mexican American.
Mexican American. I didn't have to have perfect Spanish.
Right.
I just had to be able to speak Spanish, which I did in the audition. Was good enough to book the role.
Right. So one of the things that Narcos gets some flack from audiences and people within the industry is that they're like, oh, well, here's another show they will use the word glorifying, although they're emphasizing violence in our community. I'm going to tell you how I feel about that because I've read some of the quotes that you talked about. I think Narcos is a landmark show for the Latinx community, Hispanic community, whatever word you want to use, because yes, number one, I find any story that involves the criminal underworld to be compelling. Sorry, I'm not trying to glorify violence, but there's something compelling to criminal stories, especially of this magnitude. But with this show, it's not just a bunch of street thugs. You're showing Latinx characters, Latino and Latina characters, who, while they're evil or criminal or whatever, they're sophisticated and powerful and clever and smart, and they're seizing the day, so to speak. Carpe diem. And you also see Latino characters on the other side as agents and stuff like that from the beginning. So, I think that when you weigh out all the variables, Narcos, and the fact that a lot of the show is in Spanish and non-Latino audiences are watching the show, reading the subtitles, picking up Spanish, and learning about our cultures along the way. So I think that's why I feel Narcos has been actually a great thing for our community, despite the fact that it deals with something like criminality and drug dealing and all that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, but honestly, who are the bad guys?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's the DEA agents. There's the Mexican police. There's so if you look at the beginning of Narcos Mexico in particular, that Felix Gallardo is just trying to be powerful but he's also trying to feed his family.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not that I'm validating any of the kind of decisions that the Narcos make or any in the history, but it's the show also shows the importance of family, the importance of taking care of each other, but it's also a bit of a loose lesson, history lesson. You know what I mean? Some people didn't know a whole lot about this stuff. The foundation and the basis of the show is rooted in truth. But there is embellishments and such to keep the show going forward, just to keep it entertaining.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I also think of shows like this that I'm not mad at the show at all, or especially because this show is such a huge show. It's like the 5th most watched show, and when it's airing, is that it's a win. This show is a win. Whether you think it's glorifying violence or glorifying cartels and the lifestyle, it is a win. There was 27 or 28 series regulars on the last season. Most of them Latino. Most of them Latinx, whatever we call it. I don't know what the terminology anymore.
It'll be something new next year.
I don't want to offend anybody. But every one of those actors, they have a chance to shine. You know what I mean? And each one of them trend in their own way. And this new season, I got to see the first episode. I'm sure you've seen a couple episodes.
Right.
They're so interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And each one of those, like Tenoch Huerta, he's always been a good actor, and he's done a couple things here and there. But after that show, he's been working nonstop, right? And that's a man, a Mexican, I think. He's Mexican, I'm pretty sure. But he's darker skinned, right? So oftentimes it's there can be some interracism within the community and the industry. So for someone like him, who's not typically, Latinos are tough anyway. Right. Like the lighter skin you are, the more beautiful you are. So for him to go in and kind of win the role and just kill it, right?
What I love about Narcos, going even back to the Colombian thing, is that they got a lot of cultural and even racial things correct. And what I mean by that is, I'll go to Colombia because Colombia is a little closer to Cuba, where we have the Afro-Latinos mixing in with the European descent, mixing in with some indigenous. There's not as many indigenous people in Cuba, but in Colombia there is. And when you would watch Narcos, you would see like all the different races. And someone who's like non-Latino watching the show is like, wait a minute, hold on. There's this African, there's a Colombian over here. He's a black man and he's speaking Spanish. And then there's like a white-looking guy over here, he's speaking Spanish. And then there's someone who looks more indigenous over here. And this is the same country. Like understand how complicated our community is. And then with Mexico as well, people don't understand some of the history and the power. And I say power because even though there's a lot of negativity to the storylines, you're seeing people go, like you said, not just feed the family, but going for big things, trying to rise themselves up. Now they're doing it, with negative means, but so in that way, it's not just the humble character that we've gotten used to portraying, and so I going back to what you were saying before, curating against negative roles. Okay, that's one way to look at it, but at the same time, you want to go for big characters, and sometimes they're bad guys. Okay. Sometimes they're in the gray.
Here's the other thing too: is like if people want to complain about these shows, right? If people complain and glorification of all these characters, all these shows like this, is that if you and I stopped doing this a long time ago. I used to post on Facebook. I could start a fire very, very easily about Latinos in the industry, politics, whatever it is. I stopped posting a long time ago, figuring like, what am I really getting out of these kind of posts, other than riling people up and kind of like having 150 post conversation about the same thing that everyone talks about all the time. I go, unless I have a solution to the problem, I'm not going to talk about the problem. So I silently started coming up with my own solutions. That's producing my own content, either doing photography and trying to figure like working on my own craft as a
Seeing
director.
some of your photos, really on Instagram, awesome stuff.
Thank you, man. I'm gonna release a ton more here pretty soon. And for me, it's like if people want to complain, it's like cool. You can complain. What's your solution?
Right.
Are you writing something? Are you writing a show are you writing content that will uplift the Latinx image? What is your idea? What are you producing? If you're not, if you're just gonna bitch all the time, then I don't see your argument as productive.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because everyone's bitching.
Right. Now, let me ask you, within the industry, because we have, what's happening on social media, and we have the way audiences react to that, and social media doesn't even really capture the way everyone's feeling. It captures the way the loudest people that want to post every day are feeling, and that's not everybody. But within the industry, I feel that over the past 10 years and just being here and covering you guys, actors and writers and directors from our community trying to do things in Hollywood, I feel we've gotten a lot of lip service. Oh yeah, now's your time. Now's your time. Every year, now's your time. Now's your time. Do you think this is finally?
It's always been our time.
Okay.
There's always a trend. I mean, you keep looking back and.
But I feel like they give us like a shorthand, like,
right.
Oh yeah, now's your time. But I'm not gonna really reach all the way over there and
Right. I mean, that's okay. That's someone else saying that's our time.
Right.
Right. Again, that's part of the problem. Unless you want to be part of the solutions, like, all right, cool. This is my time.
Right.
Not this is your time. This is my time, and this is how I'm gonna. These are the solutions that I'm gonna create so that my time stays relevant. Right. So if you're producing, you're writing, you're directing, you're doing all the stuff that you keep producing stuff,
right.
Even if it's garbage at first, you know what I mean? Not everything is going to be gems. The biggest stars create garbage movies every now and then. If you keep producing, they can't ignore you.
Right. Dude, I think that and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass when I'm coming in and saying, look, this. I think this is a role. I mean, you're even saying in your personal life, like you had a dip in between, from Dusk Till Dawn to now, and this is uplifting you. But I feel like all the lessons that you probably learned, not in your successes, but also in those down periods,
sure.
You're now gonna take into this. Now you're like in the game. Like I think this is you're in the middle of the game. You're not in the beginning of the game.
No, yeah.
You're in the middle of the game now, and you're kind of like on the younger end of this generation of I think some great Latino actors. I always have Antonio Jaramillo around here. Like some of these like undiscovered guys that have been playing supporting roles, but they have just a few lines, but they kill those lines. Or they have a guest starring role, but they have gravitas to you. So all those lessons that you learned from the times that you weren't getting the job, how do you think you're going to integrate them now that you are back in the system, so to speak?
Well, I think my next move is directing. You know what I mean? So if hopefully the next series I get on, I really have a feeling I could have, had a chance of directing an episode of Dusk eventually.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because Robert knows that I'm a filmmaker too, and I've been producing and I have a real big interest in directing. And I'm always bugging the camera ops and the DPs and the producers and the writers. You know what I mean? Like I'm always kind of in the mix, just because I'm really interested in it. Right. I like being part of the creative process. So I think that is my like I'm in the middle of it now, so that's part of it. You know what I mean?
And I think that you've gained a lot of trust, I'm sure, behind the scenes because of the kind of guy you were asking questions and all that kind of stuff. Now, did you stay in Austin because you worked in Austin from Dusk Till Dawn, and then you kept a place there or something?
Yeah. I bought a place there after the first season.
Nice.
It's just so much cheaper to buy a place there than it is in LA.
Totally.
I from what I was paying in Austin, I am paying. It's like a third of a small place.
And you're from Wyoming, so it's a little closer to home, or it's a little closer to where you come from.
A little country, yeah.
Do you think that when you came out here and you were competing with actors, Latino actors who were either Southern California guys or New York area guys, maybe the occasional like Miami guy like me, but you have these Chicago maybe, but all urban center Latino actors were your competition, and here comes this guy from Wyoming. Not only the only Latino that people probably ever met from Wyoming, you're probably the only person that people that met from Wyoming.
I get that a lot.
Do you? I'm sure there was a lot of like learning, like when you did like the Huacos and the Quinceañera or anything that had to do with like urban Latino life, that you had to be like, all right, I'm kind of like learning this now in my adult life, where these guys kind of grew up around it. Was there a little bit of that, or? But do you also kind of bring this outsider thing that they don't have that maybe kind of sets you apart?
Yeah, I think a little bit of all of that. The urban lifestyle in Wyoming was we were very attracted to the Southern California lifestyle. You know what I mean? A lot of the guys wore Raiders jerseys. It was kind of like that of what we grew up with. In Wyoming, we're a little bit behind.
Did you grow up in Cheyenne?
No. I grew up in the first town I grew up in was a town called Hannah. It was like 800 people.
Oh my God.
And then the next town over I went to high school in is called Rawlins, and it's about 7,000 people, a little over 7,000. So two very small towns.
Dude, that's that's an auditorium show for like a mid-range comedian here in LA. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I kind of feel like I'm a bit of a mimic. So I see something and I kind of, I think that honestly, Quinceañera wasn't a big stretch for me. The stretch part was kind of more the emotional scenes. If I didn't get the emotional scenes down, I knew I was going to die.
Why? Because in Wyoming you don't show emotion?
No. Just because I'm still fairly new, and that was a big role, and kind of like there was a lot of the movie was on my shoulders, and but as far as kind of playing from East LA and stuff like that, I played a fairly neutral accent in Quinceañera. It was a little bit of East LA in there, but very, very neutral. I didn't want to play the stereotypes again,
right?
Which I think is one of the reasons why that worked. I didn't play the stereotype for East LA, and I didn't play the stereotype for gay,
right?
You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the reasons why that really works. I didn't, and my friend Emilio Rivera, he watched the movie, and I met him very, very early on, and he came up to me and he goes, I'm very hard on those movies because this is where I grew up, and he goes, it was spot on, bro. So coming from him, you know what I mean?
That's amazing.
It's a big compliment.
No, you're a very natural actor, man. Nothing about you seems forced, even in normal life. So that probably translates. Now, before we started, I was bugging you about, are you going to be a dad?
I don't have any plans of being a dad.
Is that like? Well, tell me, because you see, you have some dad-like qualities. I can see.
I got dad bod?
No.
Just call me fat, bro. Yo. I'm my publicist. He just call me fat.
No. But is it because when you're living a life that's pursuing art and performance and you have to be available and present to that, it just doesn't really leave room for being present, as
I just like my life as a kid. Look, man, I travel so much. I have, and people do it all the time. My buddy Nick Gonzalez, him and his family travel and make it work, and Kelsey has her business all over, and they make it work. So if it happened, it happened. Cool. I'd probably be a pretty okay dad, but it's not it's not something that I'm itching to do. You can
tell I'm having like a midlife crisis, and then I'm noticing that like all my friends who are pursuing a career in entertainment media, for the most part, I have one friend that has a kid. He's a graphic designer for the NFL Network. He wouldn't mind me saying this. It wasn't planned. So and then the rest of I have one older friend who has like 2 grown-up kids. That's it. Everyone else, and so I see that a lot of us, are starting to question, wow, are we ever gonna have? Because we've been saying later,
Oh,
but
funny.
it's like we're not. Most of us are not in our 20s anymore. So it's
a little easier for the men.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I am. This conversation with some of my female friends is
a little easier.
There's a little bit more weight to it.
Again, we have to praise the women who honestly take a lot of the responsibility, right. And even if they're both parents are present, she carries the baby.
The physicality of having to go through birth is something that
yeah. I'm so glad I'm not a woman.
It's interesting.
For that reason.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with actors to see what the choices they're making, because it's to get pregnant for an actress, you're taking a whole year off. Unless you're going to be doing a role of a pregnant woman.
There's so many that have had kids and you can even tell on
right. Yeah, they start showing later
even
on.
big action movies like I've seen. Yeah.
Doing stunts.
Yeah. Well, they have some people, and now the CG and the face replacement stuff is so.
Well, a lot of our actors' friends are also physical specimens. Like they're actually, they can physically do maybe more than an average woman can do. Dude, I'm excited about watching the rest of Narcos. This is season 2 Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So there's been 4 seasons total in Narcos.
This will be season 5. I'm in season
3
5.
seasons of Colombia, and this is 2 seasons of Mexico. You lived in Mexico City shooting this?
Yeah.
For how long?
We were there off and on for about 8 months.
Did you go to the pyramids of Teotihuacan?
I've been there. I didn't go this last trip. I've been there.
You've been there.
I've been there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love all the pyramids.
Oh man, we took a day trip down to it's south. Gosh, I need to remember it. But it's a natural springs kind of water, not really a resort, but
you can dive deep into the.
You can't dive deep. You can't dive deep. But so there's a river and it's super super cold and it's really really refreshing. But you can swim along it and it was super hot in the summer, so bunch of friends of us went down. There's so many parts of Mexico that are so beautiful.
How do you believe that Mexico is portrayed in the media? I know you've talked a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Like, people don't really understand it.
I don't think they understand. I think people need to stop watching the news.
Right.
If people stopped watching the news and stopped being triggered, man,
Yeah.
can you imagine how much better we would be?
Big time.
Yeah, we have been trained for since the beginning to make life decisions based on fear.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's politics or the way we're brought up, just because that's where they were brought up, religion, all the things. All the things they're not supposed to talk about. You get in an argument with people.
Right.
Those are the things. A lot of those things are based on fear. And and the news, if we watch all this stuff, if you're watching something on politics or whatever, like something that winds you up, no matter what side you're on, and the commercial comes up that there's some sort of pharmaceutical drug, right, that combats depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So there's so many things that tie into.
God, that makes a lot of sense.
Right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that tie into both sides of it, the advertising of it and the content part, that it's all part of the mix. So if people are often triggered and living their life based on fear-based decisions, then we're doing it wrong.
Right.
If we go back and look at what we're doing and the decisions that we're making and seeing if we're making it from a logical choice, whether it's fight or flight, if it's your life or death situation, or if it's out of love, if we can make more decisions based off of love, then everything we do will be, better.
Well, someone that, I went to school for journalism, and when I first got out of college, I did more newsy stuff. I'm actually trying to move away from that kind of stuff, because I understand that the news is really trying to do two things to the viewers. One, trigger them and wind them up with their fears, their anxieties, their anger. Or two, placate to their fantasy about, who they want to be, and the wishful thinking and the glamour, and oh yeah, you can have this car and all this stuff. It's never really giving you the truth, So it's interesting how you tied it in with what they're advertising typically on these news shows, and how that gets that.
Well, look, man, I'll finish the question. That you can the image that the media and people who don't really know better. What happens is people repeat news and opinions that really aren't their own.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And when that happens, it paints this whole picture of anywhere that isn't really true. You can go to any city in the United States of America, and there are going to be a little bit rough neighborhoods.
Right.
And your job as a tourist is to know which neighborhoods, kind of like know your instinct, be aware of your surroundings. Don't go into those places if you feel unsafe. Back out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the same thing in Mexico. There's Mexico City is one of the most beautiful cities, and it's like, well, if I could buy property down there someday, I would. For that and the friends that I made during the show and the times that we had, it's one of my favorite shows that I've done.
Your Spanish got better, I'm assuming.
Much better.
Yeah. You come back speaking perfect Spanish.
I did not come back speaking perfect Spanish, but because everyone spoke English down there.
Oh, yeah.
All the crew spoke
Totally.
English.
Yeah, people don't realize that Mexico City is a very worldly city.
Very.
And it really is different than the rest of Mexico in the sense, I guess Guadalajara has elements of that, but it's very international, and you see, it's not.
We'd go out and then there'd be people from France or Germany or whatever, and they're speaking perfect Spanish with all the slang and all of that. And my buddy's looking at me, he's going, bro, they've been here a year.
Yeah.
They've only been here a year and they speak like they're Mexican. I was like, what's your problem? I'm like, I know, man. Everyone speaks English.
That's funny. Are both your parents Mexican?
My dad's Mexican from Mexico. He's from Zacatecas, and my mom's from Wyoming. She's kind of a mix of, I think, Spanish and some other stuff. We're still trying to figure it out.
Do you have like the Cherokee? Because everybody from Wyoming has a little bit of Cherokee or something.
Probably, yeah. I don't know.
You got to do your genealogy. You don't want to do
it. I think I don't want to do it because it's like
then they have your DNA.
They own your DNA.
But
I know. I'm really curious. But
you think they're going to clone you?
They could.
You're going to show up to the set. You're already going to be there.
I don't know why. They could probably get the best parts of me, but.
If you ran into yourself, do you remember the scene in The Prestige where Hugh Jackman does the transporting thing and he just makes a copy of himself? Do you remember what he does? He grabs a gun and I would do the same thing. If I saw like somebody clone myself and it's like that's another copy of me, I gotta get rid of that person. I can't live with another.
How do you know that's the real one?
No, I'm the real one.
How do you? That's what the real. That's what the copy.
Maybe I'm the copy. But I'm in this head, so that guy's gotta go. I can't.
You don't know, man. We're living in a matrix, and none of this is probably real.
Do you believe that we're living in a simulation?
I don't discount it.
Well, even if we're living in a simulation, because I know you post a lot of very spiritual sounding things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to appeal to your spirituality because I've become fairly spiritual myself. But even if we're living in a simulation, there is some creation, and I'll find that divine. Even if we're just ones and zeros, jutting along some program and some hardware. There's something divine. I believe that there's divinity to it, whether we're a simulation or we're a hologram or whatever the hell it is.
I don't discount that either. You know what I mean? The problem I have is with organized religions that kind of like use fear-based.
Exactly.
Fear-based.
Well, they hijack spirituality and to use it to control people. But that's what religion is. I don't know if this
Again, I'm like, people who have religious beliefs and like are religious, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, the way that I also feel about religion, because I've gone, living in Southern California, I grew up a Catholic Cuban kid in Miami. When I go back now and I'm doing my crystals and talking about asking people what their signs are. And by the way, what sign are you?
Sag.
Oh, look at you, fire sign. Okay, I'm an Aries. That's good. Sag is like the oldest fire sign, so it's like the more wiser. Like I'm the first fire sign, so I'm just like, what the hell's going on? But when I go back to Miami and they're like, what are you on? And I tell them, well, sometimes mushrooms. I've done some ayahuasca ceremonies if you want to know.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with any of that?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I haven't done any of it, but I'm familiar with it.
Well, in Mexico, there was this woman, they did a documentary on her. She was this indigenous woman in the mountains that would hold mushroom ceremonies. Yeah. There's a documentary, a friend of mine did it called Little Saints, because they call the mushrooms, how do you say saints in Spanish? I think I'm asking the wrong person.
Santos?
No, not Santos, Los Pequeños, I don't know. But it's, so there's a lot of the, indigenous ceremonies involving psychedelics like ayahuasca, especially in South America, is, it's mind-blowing. And a lot of people might be doing it the wrong way now here and maybe exploiting it and all that stuff. And maybe that has that organized religion aspect to it where people are trying to like systematically control it and, use it to influence people. But there's a lot of people that get a lot of deep healing from doing these
experiences. Let me ask you this. If you had what would your superpower be?
God, I've always wanted to fly.
Yeah.
Telekinesis probably. Just, keep people away from me.
So here's mine. It would be the ability to use 100% capacity of my brain.
Yeah.
Because I could figure the rest out.
Interesting. Well, I think you're right about that. Well, I think that so here's and we'll be ending on this fun psychedelic interlude, which I actually bring up on most of my check-it-outs. You know that we have the thing called the pineal gland, right? It's at the center of our brain, and scientists say that a lot. Well, ancient religions always talk about the third eye. So a lot of people are realizing that the pineal gland is that part of the brain that can that's closed off. It's calcified, and then when it opens up, like when you're having lucid dreaming, or when you're born, or when you're having near-death experiences, you have these psychedelic experiences similar to what happens when you eat mushrooms and ayahuasca, where it opens up your pineal gland. And you obviously know that we use 3, 4, 5, 10% of our brain at the most.
Like that, yeah.
So when you're accessing these psychedelic journeys, I think that you're accessing a little bit more of your perception, which is why you can't do anything. You just got to sit there and be like,
sure.
And so you're able to, even though it's coming through the filter of your mind, when you're doing like these, these kind of like plant medicines, not narcotics, which is different than Narcos, but the plant medicines in a ceremonial setting, not at a party, dancing, trying to talk to people, but in a meditative, ceremonial, shamanistic ritual, I believe that you're able to sense the spiritual realm, or you're able to sense the simulation.
Sure.
Either one is divinity to me.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, when you do want to do it, you're going to call me up,
we're
right?
We're going to go to Peru, or we're going to go to Mexico or something, though.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. I think Mexico is a great place to do it because it's close by, and you can ayahuasca is a little strong for people, but mushrooms might be the kind of like the intermediate.
I don't know. I've had a kind of couple of hallucination moments in my youth, in my early years, and I don't like it. Like there's a couple like speedy kind of things that I liked.
Okay.
But
but were you around people?
For the hallucinations?
Yes.
One time I got super, super, super high, and I don't know if it was laced with something. And this was in high school,
right?
And I was literally seeing squigglies flying at me, and like pink elephants and all kinds of weird shit. And it wasn't fun. So I wasn't in control of it. You know what I mean? And not that you can be in control of any kind of hallucinating substance, but going into it, knowing what I'm getting into, if I have a guide there,
yes.
You know what I mean? And
that's the whole thing.
And that's the guide, because again, if I were to have something like that, I'd be more open to doing it.
But let me explain to you why you can't. I have friends who are like, yeah, I've done mushrooms. Like, yeah, at a concert, at a rave, that's not. No. You have to go into a setting. With mushrooms, maybe you don't need the ceremony, but if you go into like nature with someone you trust, a friend, and you have to meditate on it.
Yeah.
You have to know that you don't need to be social. You don't need to be anything. It's all about letting go. And when you go in there with that understanding, because you're talking about how it's not in your control, that's kind of the point. But if you're prepared to let go, And the ceremonial setting is about respect. It's about the energy. If you believe in energy and you have a respectful intention, and it's not like let's party and be recreational, have a good time, but it's actually you're gonna try to like go deep. You'll have a better trip, and and then the whole point of when it's coming to you and all these things that I'm not thinking these squiggly lines, like this is coming like downloading on me, and it's a little scary. But the ceremonial setting helps you get into the state of mind where you can be like, okay, I'm gonna let go to this. And the reason you want to let go to these visions and hallucinations is not necessarily that they're gonna have all the answers to life, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna ask, oh, what's my answer to life? That's not it. When you let go to what you're seeing and you realize that there's more and you're connected to everything, on the come down, as you start coming off of it, that's when you start evaluating your life. And in that mentality of letting go, you're gonna let go to truth, you're gonna accept things, you're gonna heal things, you're gonna peel off of you.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be done in a ceremony.
I think I would enjoy it because I've, over the past, I'd say specifically the past 5 years, I've done a lot of spiritual growth and kind of like evaluating my life and kind of my decisions and discovering patterns that, I haven't really had a whole lot of, as men too, we don't really talk about a whole lot of stuff. Right. We're kind of bred that way. I think hopefully the younger generations are a little bit more open to, everyone, they're more open to sexuality.
Right.
And they're more open to conversations. They have a bigger platform where they can be safe from their phones or whatever it is. But I started discovering things, I had a breakup with this girl a few years ago, and I discovered reasons how I was keeping my own grief and sadness and anger and all this stuff alive. We can talk about that off camera. But I think I would at some point. I think I'm ready to do that when the time is right, because I'm more open to it now than I've ever been before, because I don't like not being as in control as I can
right.
be.
Well, listen, the right person if you want to tap into like the spiritual community here in LA, Venice, Topanga.
I've got plenty.
But I'll tell you what, over the course of this interview, what I've learned, you're ready for a lot of things.
Yeah, man.
This is a big year for you.
Yeah.
So Jesse Garcia, Narcos, Mexico season 2.
Yeah.
Airing on Netflix now. You can stream it now. You can binge watch it. Thank you for being, dude. Jesse Garcia,
brother.
You've been on Check It Out.
Yeah, I bet.